Hi guys, how you going? Campbell here from Autodidactic Channel. Hope you're all having a fabulous day. And today I wanted to have a look at Syria. And basically just because Syria is in the Middle East and it's a desert, it's basically a blast zone. But it has hilltop, forts, castles dotted all over it and ruins all through the landscape. And it's just another big, pointing to the fact that this whole Middle East area, this whole blast zone that we see here, was heavily populated. This whole place was built out a couple of hundred years ago. And you can see, if I pull back here, you can see this scar goes right across Africa, right through the Middle East and up into Russia. And we also have the same kind of effect, the same scarring effect in the middle of Australia. And then in the Americas, we have like Arizona in North America and the Gobi Desert in South America. So very interesting what caused all this, because when we've had a look at the buildings. I've done some videos on Sodom and Gomorrah and some other old civilizations in this area, and they are clearly just destroyed buildings. The state that they're in doesn't happen by time, and the whole time thing's a whole nother story. The whole chronology of our past has been changed and mixed around, which is really what this video is about, just to show you how the story that they're giving us doesn't match up with what is actually out there in reality. So let's jump in and have a look at Syria. Alright, so this is Syria, Super Syria, and I've got made a little slideshow. As you can see, all these little dots, these are all ruins or castles, and that's not all of them, they're actually everywhere. If I zoom down here, let's just go off the cuff and see what happens if we zoom in here. Oh my god, what is that? Oh, look at that. So straight away, again, somewhere different. And this is Syria. And we just get these weird anomalies. Look at that thing. What do you reckon that is? And there's another one here. What's that? Dome? What do you think? There's a big sort of hole, like it's a big, something's been melted and sort of fallen in. So was that like maybe on the top of a building that's all now a hole? Because look around the outside here as well. All these lines and right angles and squares, flows up here, see how all that. So just very interesting landscapes. This as well. What's that? So there's stuff all over the place. Alright, so let's jump into this. So we're going to go to Arwad. And Arwad is an island, and here it is. Now, the story of Arwad, as you can see, it looks like it's, it is in the Mediterranean. It looks like a resort island with this big marina that's man-made, of course. The story is the Phoenicians rocked up here, found it, and it was literally just a rock sticking out of the ocean. This was around the sort of 1500s. 1600s kind of time frame, and then they rocked up, they found just a rock, and then they decided to just build it out. It's covered, it's like literally covered, they're like from shore to shore in buildings. Now how did they get all this material out here to build all these buildings is the first question. Why would they do it? And I guess another question is, why are there all these remains of older structures that fall into the water here and big bricks? See all this? Bits of wall, just, falling off into the ocean. just everywhere. Just the whole outside of this island is just broken walls. You know, there's a bit of a star fort feature. Have this kind of funny shape, which could be part of the original Star City, because this would have been, you know, like a Star City. Yeah, what we see on the hills when you get the castle or the citadel popping out the top. This looks like the same kind of feature, but this looks like, you know, they said they found it as rock, so who knows, but there's definitely no citadel on this. But it's definitely, yeah, very old world. I can't get down to show you anymore, and you can see the contrast is not the best. But yeah, we get these features everywhere. Look, just walls the whole way around, and they want us to believe that they just sort of rocked up here, found a rock, you know, that was uninhabited, so they built a whole city from shore to shore, and then built this massive marina. Just because, you know, why not? Now, it is off the coast of Cyprus, and you know, the story is that they were using it as a trading port, and with Cyprus, and they, I think, eventually took over this area of Cyprus. And this is actually what led me to Cyprus. Is there's a chat, a messenger chat in Facebook with some people, and there's lots of cool stuff gets posted on that. I'm not actually sure how to add people to it though, so if anyone knows how to do that, let me know, because there is a lot of good info. Because there is a lot of good info there, and I do want to share more of it. It's so yeah, there's a chat in Facebook Messenger with some people in it, and some really good stuff gets posted, some really good pictures and information. And this one was actually from Reese, and he found this place called Tartus. So this is Tartus in Cyprus. Tartus, Cyprus. So it's time to get super serial. And look at this. I mean, just, you know, look at these for features that we see everywhere. You know, just the geometry. It's obviously been built over. This is now a golf course, no doubt. But, you know, just here we have, you know, big obelisk in a circle. You know, we have these diagonal streets and the angled buildings that we see everywhere. Now, this is obviously on the ocean, so we don't, when they're on the ocean, you don't always get the canals going through them. This may have had one, because there's always like these big roads, big wide roads, sort of circle roads that go around, and they are probably filled in canals. But yeah, this is Tartus, and as you can see, it's an old world city. It's got many of the features. It's just been built over, but you can just see that sort of look here with all the angles, and there are some old world buildings around as well. So if we go down, I don't think we have a street view, but if you click on this, we get pictures. So this is the Tartus Museum, and look at that. Massive old world structure. You know, in the grounds we've got, you know, the usual, the statues everywhere, the fountains, the, you know, the bowls, the reflection bowls. Look at this, looks a bit worn, and this is probably a facade that's falling off here. You can see here this big arch in the wall, see that? And they've filled it in. Now, so see how the bricks that have filled in this arch are the same pretty much as these bricks, and these bricks that are falling away. So that's probably a facade, and obviously down here you can see these are huge bricks, much bigger construction. So again, there's a bit of conjecture about, you know, are these melted red bricks that are melted down and forming bigger bricks? But when you look at that, and you can see that the lines, they're all very uniform. The bricks look the same size, it would be very strange for small red bricks to melt into bigger bricks all the same size with all the same lines. So that just looks like bigger older world construction at the bottom of this. And there we go. Of course, all the statues all broken, of course. Here we go with a concert. And again, this facade. And I was talking to Simon. I was talking to Simon last night, and he was saying that, with all these old buildings that get demolished, because they're everywhere, right? That they're smashing down buildings, and we were talking about what happens to the rubble. And he said maybe this is what they're using for the facades. Because when you look at this facade, like he was saying, the stonework's not as good. A lot of the time, it's a lot rougher. It looks like it's, like this brick here, it looks like it's been repurposed. A lot of them do. They just don't have those sharp edges. So is this what becomes of the buildings they tear down? Do they just cut them up and use them to reface the buildings that they haven't torn down? Don't know. See the arches here as well? Arches everywhere. And this, we see this a lot in these old world cities, these outdoor sort of hallway things, all these little passageways inside the city. Here's some old, looking pretty Egyptian. We are kind of close to Africa. Some sarcophagi, and they look like, this looks like alabaster, this one. This looks like marble, might be a form of alabaster. Of course, big pillars everywhere. So the same stuff. Oh, that looks a bit rude. But yeah, what's that? That's, okay, that's that leg. Oh my god, that is rude. That's legs. How rude. Bottom of a statue that's obviously got some other function. And there, that's the inside. There we go. Got our dome here. The whole, so complete old world construction just sitting out on sitting in Tartus, in this old town, old Star City. And no doubt there are more of these. Let's see if we can have a quick look. Will it let us? No, we're not allowed in to Syria. Alright, let's go to the next. This is Crack des Chevaliers. And again, you can see, this is a fairly, green area. So you would expect something out here. There's a bit of a population. And there we go. Star Fort. Sitting up on a hill, of course. You can see the hill there. So there you go, up on a hill. And check out, this hill here with all these striations. It looks like what we're told, it's for farming, paddy fields, rice paddies, they tell us. This obviously, look, that is not being farmed. You can see there's no farming going on there. So what is this? Are the rice paddies that we see everywhere, all these different levels, are they actually just levels of what they're covering up? Because look at that whole hill. That's just the whole way down. So is there some massive structure under there? Because just look at that. And then of course over here we get this. With these weird shapes in the hills. Right angles. You can see there's clearly more buried here. And just popping out the top, because we've got lower walls down here. And even if you get down here, there's even lower walls down here. So an old world star fort is Crac des Chevaliers. Next one is called, I've got to be careful saying this, Fakna al-Din al-Mani Castle. And this is really what I sort of wanted to show, is look at this. This thing is in the middle of nowhere. Look at that. Clear, just like in the middle of nowhere. And see how there's kind of a line of these? There's this, I guess it's a town. It's hard to see. But they do look like buildings with roofs. But over here, we just get all these ruins. Look at that. See how that's a hole in the ground? Oh, I don't know really what it's, again, it's hard to see this, but this is a wall. So it actually kind of looks like, you know, like the satellites that we see from the stars, but obviously worn down. If you can imagine, that was more like a sort of a triangle sort of a shape. But yeah, then it's got these sunken houses down below in the ground. Like the roof's caved in and there's a whole bottom layer of city. And there's stuff like this all over the place. Again, it's very hard to get, you know, to zoom in. And again, I've mentioned this before, it's always the third world sort of cities, you know, that the satellites suddenly don't work in. Suddenly, you know, that they can't zoom in to third world countries. Again, so we can't even get in and have a look at this mosque. But yeah, that's the thing, is just these ruins out in the middle of nowhere. And that one I'm not even, you know, like, what is that? Really? Like, look at that. It's just a big hole in the ground. Alright, this next one is Casa Al Haya. And again, you know, we're just up the road in the middle of nowhere. And we get this ruin. Now, look at this big square. Or 4 squares, you know. All mapped out. And if we come back, you'll see these lines. You know, and these, I'm not sure, it may be a road now, but when you have a look at this, these things are dead straight. And they go for hundreds and hundreds of kilometres. And this is something that's been pointed out by quite a few people. Just these lines everywhere. You can see them here. These dead straight lines that run just all across the earth. Out here we have some ruins. Look at this. I've got the whole outer wall almost by the looks of it. That looks like a sort of small satellite. And if we come back here, we've got this, which is another big ruin. This, you know, what do you think? Tops of pillars? Could be. You know, again, it's very, very bad contrast. But stuff like this just all over the place, and these lines again. And it's interesting that on these lines, I'm pretty sure this is, you know, these are plants, these little dots, vegetation, and they always seem to grow on these lines. So are these tied into energy? And you can almost see here all the dried up riverbeds that used to run through here. So this would have been full of water. You can see they come down here, and that's why we'd have this line of, see how we've got this kind of line of towns, and you can see here there's a big, what would have been a river coming down here. Alright, where are we now? Casa Al Haya Al Sharqi. And again, just middle of nowhere. Just, you know, why would they have built out here in the old world if, because they tell us, you know, this is Syria, but they tell us, you know, the top of Africa and this whole sort of area has been desert for, what do they say, 20,000 years, or I think it's at least 10,000. You know, so they're saying a few hundred or a few, you know, 1,000 years ago when this was inhabited, that it was just desert. So why would they build out here? There's nothing here. There's no rivers, no nothing. But look at this. So this is, I'm pretty sure this is old world. You know, there's nothing here now. These are just squares in the ground. They're not houses. And look at it. Look at this. Again, I think the black is vegetation, but it's just all sectioned off into these rectangles. And again down here. Not so much here, but we've got these squares still on lines, but I'm not sure at all what's going on down here. See all these squares? These ones are almost buried. So again, just looking like the remains of an old world city, just in the middle of nowhere, as you do. Now we're going to go check out the Church of St. Simeon. And what do we find? But a star fort on a hill. As we see everywhere. And again, you know, these hills, you know, natural hills, because what it looks like is there's a lot more, you know, this was just a huge structure and it's just been covered in mud. And so we see a hill and we see the top poking through the top. But there seems to be a lot more under here. And as you can see, this is just ruins. Roofs are gone, but clearly remains of a wall here. You can see the walls here all the way around. And then as you come down the hill, you can see things like this everywhere. Again, hard to zoom in, but can you see this sort of wall here? Another wall here. This bit sticking out. Down here, look at this. Just walls everywhere. So this whole place, you can see, look at it, it's just everywhere. It's just half buried. And again, we get this sort of rock, you know, this rock that we see everywhere that's all, you know, striated and cut up and bubbled. You know, is that just melted buildings? You know, is the story of geology on that, is that just completely wrong? Because now that we're looking at these as structures, I mean, you know, this rock is always at the bottom. It looks like it's a flow. It looks like something that's, you know, it looks like lava. When lava dries, it cracks like this stuff. So that's what that looks like to me. Alright, this one's actually called a castle. Mosque. Castle. Whoa. And look at that. There we go. In the middle of, you know, not a very big town. You know, there's some greenery around, but, you know, pretty remote area. And you can see the size of this structure compared to like the houses around it. Huge Star Citadel. And again, we probably can't get in to have a look. No. But yeah, there it is. This one, I don't know, is it on a hill? No, look at that, it's on the flat. And so if we have a look at the city, this is clearly new. I mean, yeah, there's a few, you know, sort of funny shaped buildings and roads in here. So, I mean, with this here, you know, it's definitely the remains of a star city, or at least this, you know, a satellite city. But it looks, yeah, very, very covered up. And here's their big hospital. With a lot of old world geometry in the ground around it. Interesting. Alright, Aleppo Citadel. Again, oh, okay, so Aleppo, so this is a big city. Look at that. That's, you know, in the middle of a desert, but it's a pretty huge city. And what do we get in the middle here? But they, again, a huge hill with a star citadel poking out the top. Completely walled, in ruins again. You know, lots of roofs gone. There's a dome there. Looks like they've fixed this building up. And this, now this I've noticed quite a few times in different areas, different forts. I actually showed this in the water. There were similar things in the water off St. Petersburg in Russia that looked like they were opening and shutting gates of some kind. So is this some kind of machine? Does it spin? Or, you know, did it spin? You know, was this structure here part of it? Was there something going on here? Because it's an interesting shape, isn't it? Just to build a building, you know, especially with this little angle here and the whole way it's done. But yeah, look at that one. That's kind of undeniable, isn't it? And of course, you know, around it we have all these other ruins, half buried in the ground, just everywhere. See down here, you've got holes and walls and stuff. And literally a new city just built over the top of an old one. But down here we can see these streets, these angled streets and buildings. Of course, we've got a big park. Okay, that looks a very familiar shape. That's the shape that we see, those colonnaded, you know, semicircle structures. But yeah, actually the streets here look very, old world. See that? And again, you can see, is that, yeah, see this road? That, I would say that used to be a canal. And it's been filled in and dried up, obviously, because look, there's not much water here anymore. But again, huge river here, there are big lakes and stuff, so there's big remnants of water. And we do see this a lot in deserts, don't we? The whole place is, a so-called desert, which they try and tell us is natural. You get this effect. But then you get water all through them, oases and things like this. Where did that water come from? Because, the story of a desert just creating water is completely ridiculous. But if you had, a forest and water there and then it dried up, well, of course, you would probably get pockets of that water left, which is, of course, what's happened here. Now this big piece of water, just so you know, is, if I can find the name, the Euphrates. There we go. So this is the Euphrates River. From, what they tell us is the Fertile Crescent, the cradle of civilization, all that kind of stuff. And of course we have something called Adiaman in here at the end of the Euphrates. We have Adaman. Alright, I am rambling. Let's go and see Apamea. Apamea. Pretty big city. See this big lake. So bits of water around. Look at that. That's looking very Starforty, isn't it? Oh, that's probably what I've come to look at. Yes, it is. So again, look at this. Look at this wall. Completely walled city. This looks like they've just gone in and built houses over the top of it, within the walls. But look, yeah, on a hill. And you can just see, bits of things popping out, bits of walls down here. Down here we have this, which could be the bottom of a wall down there. And you just sort of see these lines, that are uniform, that kind of go the whole way around. So down there, see that? So again, clearly, a building or a huge structure, city, something that's completely just been covered and buried in mud. And now we call that a hill. This is Ameyad Mosque. Okay, the Great Ameyad Mosque. Ameyadi. Now this is again in Aleppo. So this is an old world city. And if I click on the mosque down here. Okay, here we go. So this is the mosque. Here we go. We've got a nice bunker booth here with a nice dome on it. These people think it's a well and they're trying to have a look down it. Again, super sized. Look at the size of the people here. Looks facaded, looks like it's been covered in this limestone looking brick, because when you look at this, compared to this, it looks different, doesn't it? Big tower here. So just, huge old world structure. And again, up on the top of this tower, we've got a big spire and we've got this deck. This sort of deck. Is that a landing deck for airships? Of course, the geometry we see everywhere. And I mean, this is an old world. This is what we're told, what they like us to call a third world city, but you can see it's actually full of, you can see the domes here. These are all old world buildings, same as everywhere else. They've just had a new face added to them, so that so that we believe the story that they were all built by different cultures. And what is a culture apart from a cult? A culture is something you grow something on, right? Some antiquitech. Now look at these. See how these all hang, apart from the fact they've all got these half moons on them. See that, which they tell us is an Islamic symbol. But this is on the top of so many buildings, just like the cross, which they tell us is a Christian symbol. So are these really just, you know, subverted symbols that were actually just Antiquitech? Because each one's got one, and this is just hanging here. Okay, so clearly not electric, no wires. So what's the story? Are we to believe that someone went around and what? I mean, gas, it can't be gas. So what are we talking, candles? How do you get into these? And does someone go around and light a candle in every single one of these? All the chandeliers, every single box, every night, and then what? They burn for an hour or two and they go and do it again? Very impractical. Doesn't make sense. And you can also see the top of this, like that stacking that we see in buildings. And this is a dome. Looks like the top of a building, doesn't it? Top of a tower. Even might have a bit of Antiquitech here, disguised as the hangar. It's very interesting. Some nice work there. Looks all wooden, so the whole wood thing, wood petrification, it's another angle that needs to be looked at. I mean, I think that the story is that we're looking at, you know, different societies, different times, different resets, and so different, you know, different things have happened. Some things have been petrified in water very quickly, a lot quicker than we're told it happens. Some things have been melted, and some things were just giant. And here we go, of course, the symbolism, and this 8-pointed star I'm just starting to see everywhere. And again, just, you know, so you can see the way they set this kind of stuff out. This is all geometry. This is an 8-pointed star, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, surrounded by 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 octagons, so 8-sided. Okay, so we've got 8, 8, 8. And if we keep going out, we'd find more patterns, you know. We've got more stars. This is probably 16. And so it's all to do with geometry, sacred geometry, cymatics, energy, all this kind of stuff. And you can see this was actually a portal. Can you see that? How they've filled that in? So this is definitely been facaded. They've just filled that over. And here are some ruins. And so this is the thing, you know, this building here that we see would be the same age as this. It's just that this got hit harder and they didn't restore it, they didn't fix it up, and they just called it a ruin. The other one they could fix up and they called it, you know, a mosque. And again, just have a look at this piece of old world wrought iron, and what do we have but another 8-sided star? And of course this 8-sided star is 2 squares as well on top of each other. And don't you love the modern tech? This beautiful old world building, and they just chuck these cheap fans up. Don't know what's going on here. It looks like someone's just stacked all these bricks. It's like, sorry, we've finished facading here. What do we do with all the rest? Oh, just stack them up there. And again, look at this. So this is, yeah, third world, but look at this archway, pillars. You know, how you know, we see this everywhere, don't we? This kind of Moorish arch. Facaded, so again, no doubt an old world building, but just covered up. Oh, look at that, windows to the ground. And here, now, is that wood? That looks like it's carved wood, doesn't it? Maybe it's not. But this is the thing, like something, if that was wood, it would be so much, you know, you could carve that out of wood. You know, if you had some good carvers, not a problem. You could definitely carve that out of wood. But when you're talking about stone, it's a completely different story. So is all this stuff, was it wood that was carved and then it got covered in water and petrified and turned to stone? And so now we all look at it and we ask, how did they carve that stone when in reality they didn't? You know, is that what's going on with all this stuff, all this intricate stonework we see? because that's Wise Up. That's his theory on a lot of this. And of course, just this is the same mosque, and it's Syria. So of course, ISIS came in and destroyed it because it's our story, and they call it war. But of course, this is just covering up the past. You know, covering up their tracks so that we believe his story. You know, anything old world they love to destroy. Alright, so where are we? So we've got this as well. We've just, did we look at this? No. Did we? I can't remember. There's so many of these. But again, just a completely walled, you know, hill. You can see the walls. Ruins everywhere. Ah, maybe we did. Because there's that big machine piece. Or is that another one? I'm not sure. And again, look at the size of this building here. Of course, it's Government House. This massive building. And you can see how big it is compared to these other buildings. It's just ginormous. Will it let us have a look? No, we can't have a look. And there we go. And this place has ruins, you know, sort of everywhere. Here we go, the Al-Faraj Gate. Look at that. Oh my God, is that a lighthouse in the middle of a city? So again, lighthouses, right? Seriously, take the clock off, put a thing, a light up there, and that's a lighthouse. So what's it doing? I mean, this is a coastal city, but that's not on the coast. It's not even, you know, it's only 4 stories high. They could have just put a torch on the top of this building. So again, portals, domes, the whole thing. Was this a landing tower? For airships, maybe. Look at this old world light. Again, no cables, no nothing. How do you get up there to light the candle? What's going on here? Alright, let's keep going. I've got a few more here. We may have been... is this somewhere new? Yes. Woohoo! Down, yeah, well, why not? You know, in the top of a mountain, just to make it easy for yourself. Good place to build another hilltop fort, right? See the walls coming round. Usual features, buried. But bits just popping out all the way down. Big wall down here. Clearly a big old world structure that's been covered. And this looks like a huge wall along here, doesn't it? Look at the drop off on it. But yeah, that one mainly covered. Looks like there might be a couple of buildings that survived, but all this is just being left to rack and ruin. So these things, these hilltop forts, are absolutely everywhere. And like I said, they're just in the middle of nowhere, because look at this. Middle of the desert, look at that. And look how this is, looks like very much like Australia, the red dirt. No, red dirt, red brick. Is this connected? So where are we? So again, you know, we're getting some old world features here. This looking very much like the circus in Rome, isn't it? Well, it's called the Hippodrome, and the circus, the grand circus. I can't remember what it's called, but yeah, that's the chariot race place. That's what that looks like. And here we go. That almost again looking like that half kind of shape, that machine shape, isn't it? Of course, it's a citadel, and next to it we get this buried ruins with the wall still showing. Just everywhere. Now, no, it's not going to let us look at anything here. But you can see this has got, you know, oversized buildings. It's got all the things. Now, what's that? That looks like a lake. A perfectly square lake. I mean, that's the kind of stuff you see in the big, you know, what we're taught of palaces like Versailles, and you see them in like the imperial cities in China and stuff. Just these squared off man-made lakes. Just sitting there. Why not? So yeah, just, you know, the remnants again of an old world city. just out in the middle of a desert. Looks like we've got a big obelisk here, or a statue. So yeah, looking very man-made, this square lake. It's almost like a map, isn't it? And then of course old world buildings all around it. We've got this with all the geometry in the ground. Look at this, looks like a what are they called? Crop circle. And this is that, I can't see if that's columns or not, but it looks like one of those sort of shapes that you see, you know, at the Vatican and everywhere, where we've got that half circle with columns. And of course across the road we've got ruins on a hill, big mound full of ruins. And so what we have is, you know, buildings here that are still in pretty good condition. And then if you come across here, just across, you know, just down the road, we're going to get, oops, how do I do this? Okay, here we go. So just down the road we get this Nabatean arch, and check this out, just completely old world. We can see, you know, it's got the facading bricks on it. You can see it's been rendered with this tile they use everywhere. And just look in the background, this is a whole section of just old world construction that's just, you know, dilapidated and been left to rack and ruin. Here's a bit of a wall with a hole in it. Another old world wall up the back here, red brick by the looks of it. With a massive bit blown out of it. This looks like a doorway, so this is a fairly large arch we've got here. And, okay, so they've filled one of the arches up by the looks of it. You can see the outline here. And this is it, you know, Syria. And look at this. Horse and cart next to a normal car. Got this old world, well, I mean, I don't, you know, this reconstructed old wall. I mean, with these angles, it does look kind of, you know, starforty shaped, doesn't it? But the construction doesn't look very good. Could just be, you know, an added facade. Obviously, it's up on a hill. And then just, you know, ruins here, and I can't see what this is, but a big tower. Let's see if we get a pic of it. No. And look at this stuff. So, it looks like this was mortared, and all the mortar's just fallen out. There's a few bits left. Someone's still living in there, probably. And here's the arch, I guess. Looking a bit low. And yeah, it looks like, you know, it's just been smashed. It'd be interesting to get a good look in there and see what it's actually made of, wouldn't it? You know. So this, you know, this looks, you know, old world with a facade, and this wall up here looks like it might have been, you know, reconstructed, sort of put back together. I mean, look at this wall here, it's just totally collapsing. So this they may have, you know, redone with something that was already broken, because it doesn't, you know, have that old world construction look, really, does it? And there's the arch again. So yeah, just down the road from, look at that. Don't know what that is. It looks like brick. The top, this has been blown apart. And just, you know, a bit of rubble and destruction everywhere. So yeah, so this looking very old world city, but like I said, just down the road here we've got ruins, and this one's they're even calling Roman ruins. But it's just the same thing. You know, I've got pillars. We see this all over the world, but complete ruins in the middle of a city that still has the old world buildings left that are in good condition. Look at this pillar or tower. Of course, we've got the artwork we see everywhere. Look at that. Big auditorium. I don't know what that was used for originally. Something to do with sound. And this is just, you know, someone's grazing their cattle among the ruins. Look at this pillar. That looks like it's on a bit of an angle and a bit buried. So just ruins everywhere. But then we have, you know, look at this. Look at the condition of this compared to what we've just seen. You know, there's things that they just, oh, okay, so that's these pillars. But some of it's in really good condition. Some of it they're calling ruins, like this. Pretty good condition though. And then you get this, where they've just left it, or it's been smashed, or they haven't fixed it. And then there's buildings that they're still using as well. You know, if we come down to like this thing, what's this? Oh, what's this? So here's another archaeological site. Oh my god. So this stuff is just everywhere. I'm just trying to find a new world building. I mean, an old world building that they're still using. What's this? No, someone's address. Interesting how half the city's covered, isn't it? And here's another mosque with an egg on top of it. Looks like they're repainting it. Look at the destruction out here. Look at that. Just bricks and things everywhere. Look at that little bit of a... I don't know, that is top of something. So, yeah, what happened here? They filled this hole in. I wonder if that was for airships. So just craziness, just the old world literally, you know, built over, but not quite completely built, you know, built over with the new world. But out in Syria, yeah, the old world's just sitting there destroyed and they just build around it. Alright, let's get on to the next city, the next place. This is Syria again. This is the Euphrates River. Now we're out in the middle of the desert. And there's ruins out here too. Just everywhere. Another, you know, just ruins, I don't know, town. No roofs on any of these buildings. And then we get this weird stuff in the ground with all this patchwork. And I don't really know what that is. But it's pretty interesting because it doesn't look like there's any civilization out here. Okay, if we come in here, what's down here? Oh, it's just that ancient site that we can't see. There's more out here, just, you know, ruins, more grids. You know, by the looks of it, some quite large buildings, bit of a wall. So whatever was here just got flattened. And then we have this walled square. So very similar to that lake we just saw. Square, but this, you know, got some buildings in it, so who knows, that may have been half water as well. I'm not sure, but whatever it was, it's gone now. Just left as ruins. And so this is one of the towns that they didn't rebuild. But obviously some of the towns they decided they were going to rebuild over them. And here we are again, another hilltop fort. Just in the middle of nowhere. There is a town nearby. And yeah, this is just ruins apparently. And you can see it's just, you know, the same thing. Huge construction. In the middle we've got all these, you know, buildings and citadels. No doubt they would have been cathedrals and things. Have walls. And then we have this terracing going down the hill to the lower levels where there's more buildings. And you can even see this, we've almost still got the outer wall. So very interesting. And this road, I'm wondering if that used to be the canal. Who knows? But just, yeah, and of course, just pretty much in the middle of nowhere. I guess this is farming, all this patchwork. I mean, I guess they're growing something out here. Don't know what they're growing in the sand. But very patchworky, isn't it? So they're making a living out there, but so there's a few towns around, but this is clearly just an old world structure, just sitting out there by itself. Ruins, or ruins, you know, they tell us it's ruins today, don't they? And this is the Temple of Helios. And again, not very good picture, but we can see well, same thing, middle of nowhere. We've just got this town, and if you come down, I'll have a click on it. This is called the Helios Temple, and we get some ruins, same columns. We just saw the exact same columns in the other city, and just an old, old world construction that they have left to fall apart. Where in the background, we can see buildings that look like they're old world as well, so they'd be the same age. And some got fixed, some didn't. Obviously some got more damage than others. But yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe it was the bigger ones they left. They didn't fix up and called them ruins, who knows. I wonder who gets to make those decisions. So yeah, just ruins just in the middle of this town, in the middle of the desert. And, they're all just going to say that they're all Roman ruins, left over from Rome. And our last stop in our little adventure through Syria is called Hasakah. And as you can see, this is pretty much, we can see the man-made canal. We can see the U-shape coming in here. So you can see a lot of the Star City features still in this. They've built over a lot of the top of it. And we get this. I'm starting to notice these are everywhere. Big stadiums in just this sort of out-of-the-way town in the middle of Syria, in the desert. And not only one, they've even got another big field next to it. So what are these? Are stadiums another way to hide features, hide the, what we're told are the circuses, the chariot race courses? And then, of course, if we come up here, we've got, I'm not sure if that's a fountain. Looks pretty interesting. Old world. What's that? That's a very tall tower, isn't it? And over here we do have ruins. A few ruins there, just in the ground, sticking out. And of course we get buildings like this. Old world cathedrals with the dome. Look at that. That's pretty cool. Christmas time. But look at this. So, like I said, this would have been the same age as that last place that we looked at with the columns. That was just a ruin. But one gets, fixed up and kept, and the others just get left. And like I said, maybe somewhere smashed beyond repair. Who knows? But yeah, it's interesting that they tell us this story, this is old and this is new, but really, they're all actually the same age. And of course, we still get these features in the road where they do these diagonals and these funny shaped, triangles and funny shaped buildings, this is the thing, they look like all new constructions, but they keep the old street patterns. At least some of it, so I wonder why that is. Is that to do with energy patterning or something? Because we see that a lot. And of course, there are ruins. You get things like this where there's just bits of buildings or bits of something sticking up out of the ground just in the middle of, a built-up city. So there you go. Bit of a look through Syria. And again, this is the Euphrates River. So this is the cradle of civilization. They tell us between the Tigris and the Euphrates River, and it's just a desert. It's a blast zone. Clearly the stories, when we look at the books from the past, all the images and all the story and the language, they point to something much different than a desert. They point to a place that was lush, that was full of, non-destroyed castles. All the old world castles and buildings were standing and in good condition, and it was all fertile, and there was food and plants growing everywhere. But now look at it. But they want us to believe that this is where civilization started, in a desert. Same over here with Egypt. This is basically water, the Fertile Crescent, the Delta, and this is obviously the Nile, but it's just in the middle of a desert as well. You know, talk about a hard place to live, when down here, look at this. It's all green. So we just get this silly story of, you know, that civilization started in these places that were just the worst place to start a civilization possible. So it doesn't make sense. It makes a bit more sense that these were good, lush areas when, you know, the civilizations were big and functioning here, and something happened and now they're deserts. Because that's what we see when we get into it. I mean, even just out here, this is, I don't know where we are, but it's just destruction everywhere. One thing I did want to show you just in Syria is these shapes that we get that look like the Liechtensteins. Now that looks more like, oh yeah, that looks a bit like a flow, but yeah, these Liechtensteins sort of, oh my God, what is that? What is that? Oh my God. I have no idea what this is, but freaking me out, Google Earth. Hey, look at that too. What is that? But yeah, we get this, oh God, that's just, I don't know, is that the right thing? This sort of effect that it looks like it's been hit with electricity, and it just, and here's some remnants of when it was fertile. And these are what we call oases or oases. But of course that's just a remnant that's been left that survived the destruction. But these, yeah, see all these squiggly lines that we get everywhere coming down. A lot of them, you know, are mountain ranges or hills. But see how they just look like these big, almost like lightning. These are called Liechtenstein patterns, I think. And basically, yeah, these are what are made from electricity. When electricity sparks through something, you get these kind of patterns. We see it everywhere. This is not the best sort of example. Oh my God, look at the geology around here is just ridiculous. Like the land formations. It's just madness. I mean, look at these big lines though. And this one here. So, Conspiracies Are Us have covered this along with other people. Also, Thunderbolt's project has done some really good videos on it as well. And so this is what we're theorizing happened, is there was some kind of plasma electrical event, and it's basically fried everything and caused desertification. Desertification, is that how I say it? And fried all the buildings. So I'm not sure what happened. Maybe it took all the moisture out instantly and all the bricks crumbled to dust. Because, you know, we see all these old cities and they're literally just, yeah, they look like they've been hit by something and they've just crumbled to dust. So, yeah, we get these patterns everywhere. But we also, around here, you get things that look like big mud flows. Like this. I was looking at these before, but these looks more like a flow than a sort of electricity discharge, doesn't it? You can almost see how something's come, and then look at this ridge. You know, is that the mud flood? Is that the mud flow? And it's flowed down and stopped, and it's just sort of, the top bits just sort of kept flowing down. Because look, there's a big bank all the way around there. And then of course on top we still have some water left, but everything underneath looks to have been buried. A bit of water there. So yeah, this is Syria, so basically a blast zone in the middle of the Middle East, and they tell us that it's basically where the cradle of civilization occurred. And also, of course, you know, the Middle East, this is why there's so many wars there. They're just in there destroying our story, our, you know, the history, all the old buildings, all the old artifacts and remnants that are all being destroyed or stolen. And they just, yeah, cover it up with this story of war. So there you go, guys. A bit of a look at Syria. and its destruction and destroyed castles and star cities that are still there on hills. So I hope you enjoyed that little walk around. Thanks for spending some time with me. Have an awesome day, and I'll talk to you all on the next upload. Bye for now.